What is up, football fans? I am Danny Austin. This is the Live from the 55 podcast. We are broadcasting from the Nation Network studios in Marterloop, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Middle of a fun week, great week. It's heating up again here in Calgary. Got very cold, not that cold. Saw people saying that it was so cold that it was affecting the play on the field, like Man Stadium on Friday night. That was not true. It was like 8 degrees, guys. Like, relax. That's perfect football weather. But yeah, here we are, guys. It's been a fun week for me. A little bit of a different week. Had my parents in town, so went to the mountains. I went out to my family's buffalo ranch, my aunt's buffalo ranch. Yesterday, we picked up it's finally time. We picked up a charcuterie board from Fraser and Fig. I can post a picture of it. I should have already done that, put it on social media. We love Fraser and Fig. Our sponsors here have been a long time. A couple months since I'd had one of their charcuterie boards. They are as good as I always say they are. I don't lie. Why would I lie? But yeah, had a great charcuterie board. Went perfectly. We did a sort of whole Texas barbecue with buffalo from my aunt's ranch. Just absolutely delightful. Yeah, and now here we are. Now I'm looking forward, taking a look at what we got in terms of the rest of the week on the CFL schedule. Busy one. We got Montreal at Winnipeg on Thursday. We got Calgary at Toronto on Friday. My hometown team versus the team I cover. That's always a fun one for me. And then Hamilton at BC. I'd say that that's not much of a game, except I confidently picked the Lions on last week's podcast. I think even Saturday's podcast, I picked them again, and I was wrong. So who knows? This is the CFL. Anything can happen. Good on the Riders for beating them. Riders really showed me something there. Count me as impressed. Yeah, and then after that, you got Ottawa at Edmonton. Edmonton at home. They're on a 1-game winning streak. Who knows? Maybe it's a 2-game winning streak, carrying us into the Labor Day game. That would be a lot of fun. Get their first win at home. That's whatever. It's a good slate of games. It's a fun slate of games. Lots of East-West. Every one of them is an East-West game. And a lot of us know the East has been significantly improved this season. CFL sent out something. I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not just going to stare at my computer. I'm trying not to do that. But yeah, the East has been given the West a run for its money this year. So fun week ahead. Lots to talk about. We got Ryan Ballantine. He's a regular guest here from 3 Down Nation, just from Calgary. I don't know. He's got the Go Stamps Go podcast. He brings that energy, that enthusiasm. It's what I want on a week like this one, where truthfully I wasn't at Stamps practice because I was busy doing other things, busy entertaining and enjoying the company of my parents. It was so exciting to have them in town, get around, as I said. So yeah, they were at their first game at Man Stadium on Friday. I recorded early Saturday morning, and then we sort of got around, showed them Alberta in late August. It's hard to beat. But other than that, I mean, the CFL sent out a press release this morning celebrating their achievements so far in the season. And look, I'm sure a lot of you guys are expecting me to be cynical here. Some of it is pretty funny to me, so you're not entirely wrong. There's this big looming thing over everything when I talk about the season, which is there's no operating stat system, and it continues to make the partnership with Genius Sports look worse and worse. Said that wrong. Either way, look, the Genius Sports thing is its own separate issue. Obviously, the CFL didn't say, "Oh well, all this stuff's going well," but Genius Sports, what a nightmare. And I don't know if it is a nightmare. That's just me basically looking at the CFL's website and saying, I wish that I could tell you how a player was doing this year compared to last year, or I wish I could go back to 2016 and add up all the receiving yards and tell you where Devaris Daniels was in terms of active receivers or in terms of receiving yards since 2016. It would seem to be a interesting way of covering the league, but we can't do it. Hopefully Genius gets it fixed. I have no confidence that they will. But anyways, yeah, there was some interesting stuff in there. The CFL highlighted the growth that they are seeing in Toronto, BC, and Montreal. They said average game day revenue for those 3 markets is up 26% year over year through week 10. Now, look, they're obviously adding the 3 markets together, so I have no idea. Like maybe that's the combination. I don't think that's the average. That's not what they're saying. They're just saying if you add those 3 markets up, we know that BC has seen ton of growth under its new ownership. I think a lot of us are excited by what we're seeing in Vancouver after there being some lean years there. So I have no idea. Maybe BC's covering it up, but maybe there are marginal gains in Toronto where people are spending money when they get to the stadium. That's an exciting team. They won the Grey Cup. There's all sorts of reasons, and I certainly am feeling the energy in Montreal. I got to tell you, I wish I tell the story a lot, but I will say that the best regular season atmosphere that I have ever seen, and people don't believe me when I say this, but I believe it would have been 2019 that the Alouettes had sort of just gotten hot, and the Stampeders went into Montreal. Always a tough place for the Stampeders to play, and man, like the crowd was so young. Um, they were all, as it got dark, they were all holding up their phones with the lights, completely unprompted, not asked, not told to do that by by the fans, and it was just awesome. It was really cool, and I do think that Montreal is one of those cities where you give them a winner and they show up. So yeah, I do think like I can be cynical about that and say, well, you know, the game day revenue is up 26% in those three, but then across the league, the overall game day revenues are only up 2.3%. So what does that say about what's happening in the rest of the league? But I can just sort of say that and move on because ultimately it does matter that hopefully the cumulative impact of having good teams in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver is helping out those markets, and hopefully that that raises up the rest of us. I think obviously most of us know. I mean, Edmonton and Calgary, we've seen pretty big declines in attendance. Ottawa hasn't been selling out. It can't be helping the season Hamilton's having there. So one way or another, look, the fact that overall the game day revenues are still up 2.3%. I don't know if that's consistent with inflation, but hey, we hear a lot of doom and gloom about this league, and it is good news to hear that there's still ultimately been growth. So, just hearing from Ryan Ballantine here, he was buying an iPad, so he is going to hop on when he has purchased that iPad. I hope he's not buying the iPad for Live from the 55. We're really proud and excited about what we're doing here, but we're growing. Our overall pod day revenue is up, I'm sure. But yeah, Ryan doesn't need to buy a new iPad for this. That's ridiculous. Anyways, you also got one of the other points that the CFL made was that they're getting a ton more digital engagement. 30% up on social media, 11% more views on the CFL website, the YouTube page up 10%, and that's great. And apparently, the Waggle CFL podcast, shout out them. We're all friends here in this podcasting world. I hope. No, I said I hope. I don't think those guys. I don't think we got beef. We don't got beef with any podcasts. Shout out all the other CFL podcasts. We're trying to make this work. But yeah, apparently those more people are listening to that, and more fans are flocking to the CFL's revamped and redesigned Game Zone, taking part in the league's interactive gaming experience with an increase of 179% through week 11. I don't know what that means. Look, guys, if you're enjoying the Game Zone, cheers to you. That's great news. I have absolutely nothing more to add to that. I have not been on the CFL Game Zone this season. I am not a gamer. Weirdly, I was not included in any fantasy leagues this year. So I don't know. What's wrong with my friends? What have I done? Um, Anyways, that's that. Looking ahead at the week ahead. I mean, Montreal versus Winnipeg. I have a hard time picking any of the other games this week as being sort of my one to highlight and one to watch. Obviously, the Bombers didn't look particularly good. That offense didn't look great. But you're hoping Zach's back this week. That Winnipeg team at home is formidable. But as I've said many times, I like the way Montreal fights. I know that there was debate. Did Ottawa collapse or did Montreal sort of come storming back? And I tend to lean towards Montreal coming storming back. I like that football team. I think this is a big challenge for them. But they're 6-3, and the Bombers are 8-2. The Bombers remain. It's tough. The Argos obviously currently are 7-1. They played less games than pretty much everyone else. They had a lot of bye weeks this summer, but I still have a hard time not treating the Bombers as sort of like you're the test. If you can beat the Bombers, I think you're legit. And that's not to say that if you beat the Argos, I don't. Stamps are the only team to beat the Argos, but you go into Winnipeg with the run that they're on, with the experience that they're having. I think that team is certainly defensively getting better by the week. And yeah, I think that's a nice, fun. That's a show me game for the Alouettes. If the Alouettes pull that one out, guys, the East is going to be just such a dogfight coming down the rest of the season. Especially, the Argos should beat Hamilton both of the Labor Day games. Let me make sure there. Yeah, Toronto and Hamilton. Okay, I guess there aren't two Labor Day games for Hamilton and Toronto. I think the fact that they played 4 games in 5 weeks last year got me a little bit confused there. But who cares? Either way, Montreal, Winnipeg, that's a great game. Winnipeg really feels like they are growing into this season and getting better by the week, and they scare me. I maybe they don't scare me quite as much as they did last year, but or the year before, or 2 years before that. But look, I watched them play Calgary, and ultimately, did they do much on offense? No, but that defense is so opportunistic. They grind on you. They're in your face. Jake Mayer just talked about how they tip so many balls off the D line. It's good. It's a good team, and I think that's going to be a tough challenge for Montreal. But I'm not ruling them out of any game. Montreal has earned my respect and my admiration. Friday, Calgary, Toronto. I've got Ryan on. Ryan's obviously a Calgary-based guy, huge Stamps guy. So we're going to talk a lot about this game. But I do think it's worth noting. Stamps beat Toronto earlier in the season. I know Chad Kelly got hurt, but I have maintained Chad Kelly, other than one pass, it was broken coverage. I don't think Chad Kelly was exactly ripping the Stamps apart before he got hurt. So this one to me is the Stamps have a chance here, and I'm just going to read you this. This is from the Stamps press release. Since a 39-36 loss at Rogers Center on July 7th, 2012, more than 11 years ago, the Stamps have won 8 straight away games against the Double Blue. The victories coming in 3 different venues. They won at the Sky Dome, Rogers Center. They won at the Sky Dome. They won one at Tim Hortons Field, where apparently there was a scheduling conflict. That's before my time. And then they've obviously won a bunch of BMO. So, the Stamps, this is just one of those facts. The Stamps have a terrible time in Montreal. They have a great time in Toronto. I've covered every one of those games since 2016. My first ever CFL road trip was a Thanksgiving weekend game in Toronto, and they've really played well there. Obviously, with the exception of a certain Grey Cup, but I understand the frustrations. The Stampeders offense is not scoring touchdowns. We're still waiting for Jake Mayer to really click, but I don't know. Something about the way these two teams play each other, something about just the coaches knowing each other inside and out. I tend to think that the Stampeders have a better chance against the Argos than most. And despite all of the negativity, I had Ryan Ballantine on. We're going to have it on again at the end of July. And we talked about this brutal August, which was Toronto, then BC, then Winnipeg, Toronto. And he said there's a good chance they're going to lose all 4. They've already won 1. Then they've lost against BC and Winnipeg, but they did beat Toronto. They happen to come out of this month 500, I know it looks bad. I know that things aren't quite clicking, but you can't complain about that August. If they come out having beaten Toronto twice, even if they lost against Winnipeg in BC, I'm not saying that convinces you that they're a Grey Cup contender or that they're going to win a playoff game, but that's not bad for a team that we know is not in that sort of elite tier right now. That to me represents progress. That to me represents a reason for optimism. That said, Saskatchewan beating BC means the Stamps have their work cut out for them for the rest of the season. So let's see it. At this point, that's what it's about. We've seen the Stamps make mistakes and kill themselves. We've seen them stay too conservative and get beat. It's time for them to find that balance. We're almost at Labor Day, guys. The season truly starts at Labor Day. That was the time that they have to show it. We're running out of time for them to, still be a work in progress. After that, Hamilton at BC. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't know what the line is. I don't gamble. I don't bet, but I would take whatever the line is on the Lions here. I don't understand how they're alternating between losing to Winnipeg badly, beating Calgary, and then I didn't like that loss for them against the Riders, although I really did think that the Riders showed me a lot that game. I was impressed with the Riders. But the Lions should. I don't care who's playing. Lions should beat the Ticats right now. Lions are a good team. The Ticats are not. And finally, Ottawa at Edmonton. I'm saying it. I'm calling it. Edmonton wins their first game at home, snaps the losing streak. Maybe gets people in Edmonton thinking. Guys, let's say you're having a party. Let's say you're having a picnic. Let's say you're having any occasion. Got to talk to you about Fraser and Fig, because I love these guys. Here in Marda Loop, a couple storefronts down from our studio here. Fraser and Fig, man, these guys do these delicious elevated cheese and charcuterie boxes. They're made with all these fresh artisanal ingredients, on-demand grazing, pick up, delivery. You got it. Just let them know what you want. They will get it to you. Honestly, I'm such a big fan. I had a picnic a little while ago. I brought one of their curated boxes, and it was a huge hit. I looked great. People loved it. were hungry. They weren't hungry anymore. These ready to go boxes, they got them in 4 sizes. All their boxes come with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, and carrots. Their selections vary from month to month. Choices are always new. Just because they've had one doesn't mean you've had them all. I love Fraser and Fig. I love having them as a sponsor. They're the best. Make sure you check them out. Tell them Live from the 55 sent you. All right, you know him. You love him. Ryan Ballantine. He, I believe you drove across the province over the province of British Columbia. You have arrived safely in Nanaimo. You did not buy an iPad just for me. I questioned that during the intro. It would have meant a lot to me if you did.
Yeah, it would have meant a lot to me too, because they're not cheap. But fortunately, the good folks at Rogers allow you to finance an iPad over a couple of years on the tablet plan. So that's what I've done. I got a new iPad Pro just waiting for me inside. I got to go sign some paperwork once I'm done here.
That's amazing. It would have set like a really high standard for guests if you just every time you came on the show, which is like fairly regularly, you just got a new
bought
iPad.
You an iPad.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's supposed to be the guests that get gifts for being on the show. That like sponsors are supposed to provide things to give to your guests. It's not normally guests that bring gifts for the host.
I have said many times, you are part of the crew that is going to come in and have a Fraser and Fig charcuterie board with me, Bender, Cami Kepke, and Busby. So that's my gift to you. I try.
That's a good crew. That's a good crew. I accept.
But here we are. It is week 12. The Calgary Stampeders.
Sorry, there's a train.
No problem. It's good. It's good radio. It's good radio. Calgary Stampeders are 3-7. I brought this up. This is great.
This is exactly what we wanted.
Yep, it's perfect.
Hold on. Let's see if I can find the car quickly and sit in the car and do this very quick interview while the train continues to honk its way through Nanaimo.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I'm shocked that this doesn't happen.
Apparently it's done at the intersection. So
okay, good.
I've been told, so we shouldn't get any more honking.
Perfect.
So it's week 12, and then you had a question for me.
Going into August, I brought this up on the intro. You said you were relatively, maybe not expecting, but acknowledging the possibility of the Stampeders losing all 4 of their August games to Toronto, BC, Winnipeg, and Toronto. So far, they're 1-for-3, which is better. Where are you at heading into week 12?
Well, it's still a situation where the Stampeders need to win games after August. You need to start in Labor Day, and you need to put together a long win streak if you want to have a chance of making the playoffs. I still think, given what's going on, I mean, Hamilton losing to Edmonton means that it's even more possible that 6 or 7 wins makes you a playoff team in the league this year. And I think the Stampeders can get there in the back half of the season, especially when you're playing Edmonton twice. You play Edmonton twice, you play Saskatchewan once. You need to win all 3 of those games at least, and then pick up 1 or 2 more wins the rest of the way, and that'll be enough to get you into the playoffs this year. I still, despite what Saskatchewan did, I still don't believe in them being a better team than their record has indicated. Whereas with the Stamps, you have 2 overtime losses and a loss to Winnipeg in which Rene Paredes missed 2 field goals.
Beating the Lions is not nothing, right? Like that.
It's not nothing. No, it's not nothing. But holding Winnipeg's offense to no touchdowns is not nothing either. Drew Brown came in and scored 39 points unanswered against the Elks a week ago in 1 half. It's not like he's a slouch as a quarterback. And the Stampeders defense did their work to do everything they could. And if the Stampeders offense hadn't thrown a pick 6, you're a win. That's a win against Winnipeg.
That's an important point, because I think that when the Stamps beat the Argos, we heard a lot of, well, they didn't have Chad Kelly. And that's fine. Right. But I mean, I had Darren Bombing, and I'm not calling anyone out. I hung out with Winnipeg reporters. They were all pretty convinced. Like, they were saying, look, Drew Brown can beat the Stampeders. So the fact that he went out, I mean, the fact that you have to give the Stampeders credit for what they did against Drew Brown.
Absolutely.
Because he was being treated as the real deal going into that game. So both things cannot be true. It cannot be true that Drew Brown is the real deal, and then the Stampeders were not going to give them any credit for the defensive performance they had. You know, you can decide, oh, well, after that game, we've just decided Drew Brown is trash. But if we're going to walk around and we're going to hear out of Winnipeg that Drew Brown is going to get a starting quarterback contract next year, well, then the Stamps held to no touchdowns and what, 11 points in the end?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they would have given up 12. They would have given up 12 points, 3 or 4 field goals, and that's it. And so if that happens, then you're in a situation where the Stampeders defense did everything they could to hold Winnipeg's offense out of the end zone and did so very successfully. You know, and think too, some of those field goals were substantially like just stupid penalty aided. You know, that one roughing the passer call when he was already out of bounds. You know, you take that away and the Stamps win. There's so many ways that the Stampeders win that game on the weekend if they just don't make stupid mistakes, or the wind doesn't wreak havoc with Rene Paredes' field goal. You know, the one field goal hit the upright, it died and then turned before it hit the upright and stays out, and the other one just on the outside of the post. I mean, either one of those scores and they win the game. So it's very much that the Stampeders are a victim of circumstance. I think this year you have 3 pick sixes, all of which were impacted in 1-score games. You know, and I get that those plays happen, and if they didn't happen, maybe something else would happen. But it's very easy to look at the Stampeders and think this is a team that their record could be flipped very quickly, and it wouldn't surprise anybody to see them winning those games instead of losing them.
And I mean, I largely agree with you, while also thinking that, like, at some point the mistakes become a feature and not a bug. And now I will say that, and I'm not trying to pick on him because mistakes are made all over the field. And I often tell the story of asking a Stampeder coach about Kamar Jordan's fumble in the 2017 Grey Cup. And he had been like, honestly, like, I don't put the game on KJ. And I was like, well, it was and he was like, no, man, I'm a coach. There were 100 mistakes that happened that could have turned that game. Just the most visible mistake is not the problem. But like, the reality is Luther Hakanavanu should have caught that touchdown pass and walked it in 10 yards. Right. And I mean, that was the mistake that really stood out to me. I mean, Trey Roberson dropped a pick, but like, you know, that's a pretty like go play. And he just, the ball, he's not even.
If Luther catches that ball, it gives the offense confidence as well. It gives the offense some sort of swagger that Dave Dickinson said after the game that his team is missing. You know, the ability to get in and score, to prove that you can get to it. You know, if you can do that, then you're good to go. You know, I don't understand this kind of, you know, they keep waiting for one big play to be the play that moves them forward. And I mean, what happens if they come out and beat Toronto again this weekend? You know, if they come out and beat Toronto again, where do you rank a Stampeders team that's beaten the only team that hasn't lost anybody else, but can't, you know, struggles to win against Ottawa? It's incredibly, it's a maddeningly inconsistent result that I don't know we shouldn't have expected with a relatively young team.
Well, no, but it is the thing that when you're, and I can only speak as a reporter here.
Yeah, of course.
When I'm covering a team that's winning, that a truism of good teams find a way to win, and good teams win when they're playing badly. Like, I really do believe, and I think that we saw that a little bit in the Bombers. Like, Demerio Houston recognizes that play, knows to go for it. You know, if he misses that ball somehow, you know, that could be a big gain for the Stamps. And he knows to go for it and has that confidence. That's why Demerio Houston is Demerio Houston. And I do think that, like, I saw from the Bombers, it's like, look, in pretty difficult, you're away from home, you're against a defense that's playing well, they're shutting down your quarterback. The Bombers, to their credit, took advantage in the moment, and the Stamps did. And I think that's what separates, for me, I will say, the Bombers and the Argos. The Lions losing to the Riders, and now they've lost 2 of their last 3. Yes, they killed the Stamps, but they got crushed by the Bombers. I'll be honest with you that it's a quite clear Toronto, Winnipeg, with BC number 3, and then another big drop-off to sort of Montreal. Yes. Although Montreal can change that. But for me, like, it's why I have to have the Bombers right now as the favorites in the West. They can do this.
They've been there, done that. And we continue to see them be there and do that. And you know, it's how Calgary looked for the better part of 30 years. You know, So it's fairly easy to recognize the Bombers doing exactly the same thing, which is winning games they shouldn't, and getting it done, and getting that big play. I mean, let's not forget, we talk about the dropped interception from Trey Roberson, but Brandon Dozier broke on a ball that would have been a pick six as well, and just happened to drop it. And instead of, if Demerio Houston drops that ball, Calgary wins. If Brandon Dozier catches that ball, Calgary wins. There's a lot of things to keep them close, which is why it's so frustrating to watch this team this year, because they beat Toronto. They should have beat Winnipeg. Now, they weren't in either game against BC. They weren't in either of those two games, but they should have beat Winnipeg, and they've already beaten Toronto. If they beat Toronto again, you've got Winnipeg at the end of the season in a week where they're likely to be resting their starters. So, then are you going to beat Winnipeg then? And are you the team that beat Toronto at least once and beat Winnipeg at least once? And where are you headed into the playoffs? So, I mean, there's no reason a team can't get hot and run deep. We've seen it before, both in Calgary and other places. And I think until we get, talk to me 2 weeks after Labor Day and tell me what their record is and where they are in the playoff picture right then. Because Saskatchewan's not going anywhere on the Labor Day weekend. They're going to get killed by Winnipeg twice. And so add 2 losses there. We'll see what the playoff picture looks like between Calgary and Saskatchewan after the Labor Day and rematch weekends.
So Edmonton, their considerable improvement in play with Trey Ford at quarterback. And I'm not necessarily saying Trey Ford has come in and lit it up, but I think that the team as a whole has played better over the last 2 games, including getting a win. Not the most impressive win, but a win nonetheless. Where is your confidence level at on a Stampeders team that has had some ups and downs, that has certainly at times looked like they don't have big plays in them? How confident are you in a back-to-back sweep for the Stampeders over the Labor Day games?
Very. I think that's fair to say. I think Edmonton wins again this week. I picked them to win this week against Ottawa to end that home losing streak. They'll have won 2 in a row. I think they'll feel pretty good about themselves, and they'll come into Calgary with maybe a little more confidence than they should. This team has shown the capability of being able to throw big passes and throw big plays. They did it against Ottawa, scored 41 points. They haven't done much since, but they've shown themselves capable. You've now also added, since that game, you've added Markeith Ambles into the mix, a guy that knows the Calgary system and is comfortable in that Calgary system. So I think the receiving core is getting better by the week and getting more and more chemistry with Jake Maier. I think they're very possibly going to be able to do some damage here in the second half. And I think Jake will be able to build that chemistry with guys and get it in there. When you look at the receiving core this year, it's guys in and out and playing in different positions every week. It's no wonder Jake Maier's not developing chemistry with them. It's not like these guys have played together for 4 or 5 years and we're wondering what happened. You've still got Jake in his first full year as a starter. I don't know how much more people were expecting from him in this situation.
Well, I think that people had quite high expectations because he started his CFL career so strongly. I do think that he started incredibly strongly.
Yes.
And I think that set expectations very high. And I don't think he has met those expectations, certainly in terms of accuracy. The mistakes are there. But I will also add that I hate doing this, but I don't think that the left and right tackle positions have been particularly strong on the offensive line.
Oh, no, I agree with you too. Jake hasn't had a lot of time, but at the same time,
he doesn't handle that pressure very well.
Also lead the league in drop passes. So, I mean, if Jake's accuracy isn't there, it's Jake's accuracy that takes the hit when a Stampeder receiver drops a pass. And that happened frequently in that game against Winnipeg. I can think of 3 or 4 catastrophic drops for the Stampeders team that cost them points. And every single one of those is the difference between a win and a loss in a 1-point game. So when you're leading the league in drop passes, it's hard to be the quarterback that's showing out, when receivers aren't catching the balls they're supposed to.
I don't disagree. And I do think that when it comes to the pressure that he's been under, I mean, I think that was particularly noticeable in the BC game.
Yeah.
in that game. And look, that BC, that's a heck
That
of a
D-line's
defensive
pretty
line.
good.
That D-line's pretty good, and they clearly made it a priority to sort of get on top of him. I've just noted that, for all the frustrations with the Stamps not pushing the ball down deep in that game, and I've given you credit on this podcast. You pointed out those little screen passes, how frustrating they are. But the reality is also, as I was watching that game, I was like, Jake doesn't have 3 seconds to drop back in the pocket, look downfield, and do it. He's having to get the ball out so quickly. And so, like, that is it a play calling issue? Is it a pressure issue? Is it a Jake Mayer issue? I don't know. But I mean, I've said this a million times. I actually, like, this is the most I've ever felt like the way that Stampeders fans are reacting to something does not align with how I'm reacting. Because I feel these have been some very natural struggles for Jake, for a young quarterback. I do think that I'm not throwing in the towel on Jake Mayer by any means. I still have confidence in him being able to emerge as a sort of as viable starting quarterback for this team. And I think that expectations were set too high.
Well, and again, you had Good Jones and you had Dennis, two of the best tackles in the league last year. Dennis was the Stamps nominee for most outstanding lineman, and Julian Good Jones is in the NFL now. So put those two caliber tackles, and any move to the tackles would be a downgrade. Now you've got essential rookies trying to find their way in, or a sixth guy in Bryce Bell, who has played admirably, but he's the sixth guy. He's not supposed to be starting. So, I think when you put everything together, it's a matter of getting healthy. The Stamps are second in the league in man games lost to injury. Their receivers aren't doing their quarterbacks any favors when they do get the ball. And they've had some unfortunate mistakes, whether it be missed field goals or pick sixes that have cost them games. I think this team is very capable of beating any team right now. They just have to be able to put it all together and have a pretty mistake-free week.
Yeah, and I will also note that man games, and I don't just want this to be a make excuses for the Stampeders podcast, but when you say that man games due to injury, there's maybe Genius Sports can come up with a way to quantify this, but like those man games are Malik Henry, their top receiver. They are Kadeem Carey. They are Peyton Logan, who was obviously both the returner and a huge part of the plan for the offense. We have not seen Jalen Philpott. There are some really big pieces missing to this offense, and I do like. It's why it's, I get so self-conscious about being too much of a homer, but I do think that some of these struggles are foreseeable, and I am a believer. I am picking the Stamps to actually win in Toronto, in part because they haven't lost since 2012, which Sean Fave's email said. So, I just honestly, I liked the way that they played against the Argos a couple weeks ago. I know that.
Yeah, I think the defense is putting it together. It's just whether or not the offense can score enough points to hold off those field goals.
Yeah, I do think there's a possibility that it's a terrible game. Have you bought in on Montreal?
Not yet. Here's the thing with the East. In the East, anything can happen. Anything can happen in the East. Any team could come out of there. I think Toronto's obviously going to win the division, but there's no reason why, a Fajardo, Jason Moss team can't somehow avoid their own tendencies and win an Eastern final. I think Montreal is the second best team in the East for me, but I mean, that's not asking a lot with Ottawa and Hamilton and the way they've both played this year. Is it difficult to be the second best team in the East? I think if Calgary were in the East, they'd be the second best team in the East too. It's not that tough. If you relocated the Stampeders in Montreal, the Stampeders are the second best team in the East. It's
the Alouettes really beat the Stampeders, so I'm not going along with you. This is where
in overtime, Danny. We don't talk about overtime games. Overtime games are a coin flip.
I'm sort of all in on that Alouettes team. When Dave Dickinson talked about the Stamps not having the swagger, I do think that the Alouettes do.
Absolutely, they do. They brought in Sean Lemon. Great choice.
Isn't it awesome seeing him just kind of?
I just want him to pile up, get his 100, and then sign with Hamilton so he can get the Kevin Glenn of defense.
It is sort of incredible.
Sean Lemon goals.
I have nothing but time for the people I cover, but like I know that Lemon was like, what? Like, look what I did last year. Why am I not getting contract offers? So for him to like sort of just be going out and being like, guys, why didn't you sign me? Look at
Yeah.
me. I'm Sean Lemon. It's amazing. And like it's also funny every game that he plays, you get like the veterans the guys who have retired, all of
Yeah.
his like guys in their mid to late 30s who are like a couple years retired are all so happy for him.
They're hyped. They're hyped.
They're
for
hyped. Yes.
And so am I. So am I. I love that dude. He's done my podcast 3 times now. I think he's fantastic. Sean Lemon for me is absolutely the guy I will root for over and over and over again. So hopefully he can get his 100 sacks and then just even sign a 1 day with the Ticats, or have Montreal trade him to the Ticats before he retires for future considerations, just so he can get his Kevin Glenn, become the Kevin Glenn of defense.
All right, so we are going to pivot here a little bit. Super appreciate Ryan's time, man. Coming off vacation like that, just to talk Stamps. He is always a fountain of optimism, and super appreciate his time. But Ryan obviously had to run, so I texted Ian Busby. Ian Busby said, buddy, I'll be right there. So Ian's going to hop on. We're going to talk some CFL stuff, just go around the league. I think there is lots to talk about between Edmonton hiring a new interim president, question of who is the worst team in the league right now. Why not do it? Ticats? Anyways, we got lots to talk about. Let's get to Ian. Here we go. All right, Ian Busby. Let's just totally acknowledge here. About 25 minutes ago,
like red hot.
Yeah, about 25 minutes ago, I wrote you. I was like, Ian, Ballantine had to cut a little bit short. Love him for coming on at all. Super appreciate that. I was like, could you drop by the studio?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Directly from work and are doing this.
I'm in between jobs for an hour and a half here, so might as well.
Yeah, so we'll just do a clean 20 here. Ian, we did not have you on this weekend because my parents were in town. I had Eddie Steele stop in, talk a bunch of Elks. It was super fascinating to talk to him.
Yeah, good episode with Eddie. Yeah. I like the perspective that he brought, especially with somebody who's been a player, then in media, then got pushed out of media by circumstances that are ridiculous.
And then the circumstances in Edmonton have only gotten worse since he was there. I will say, and I mean, I don't know how much you've been paying attention. They did hire Rick Lalacheur.
Rick Lalacheur, which was when I was covering the Stamps way back when he was managing the Eskimos. Yeah. And he was like, this is a great hire. It's back to the old days. He gave him an interim tag, and one of those ones where he's in the process of finding. And I laugh about it. Remember how Paul Beeston came back to the Toronto Blue Jays and was like, oh, he'll be in charge of finding somebody for the job. Well, maybe Rick Lalacheur will find out the right person for the job is Rick Lalacheur. So because he's been there and done that. And
he was with the Lions for 4 years.
Yeah.
I think,
and they was building up that franchise, and then they sold it. Right.
Well, if we look at that Lions franchise and say, hey, like 2-3 years ago, basically going into COVID, it felt a little bit hopeless. I talked to people who had been part of the franchise at one point or another, and I'm not naming them here intentionally. And I had asked them, hey, like, what can you do to turn around Vancouver? And they said, well, the Lions are not cool in Vancouver. The people who live down in that downtown core, in whether it's,
they had been completely eclipsed by the Whitecaps
down the West End.
Yeah, they weren't even the best team in that building for a while.
And those people just said that there was they didn't really see where the hope was. And then that franchise got turned around. Yeah. Rick was obviously there for that. So for me, I mean, this is a guy who knows the Elks, who cares about the Elks, knows the CFL, cares about the CFL. This guy has a record of success in Edmonton.
Yes. And positive steps they win a game. They feel like, okay, Trey Ford looks like a quarterback that they can build around. And then if they can figure out their coaching situation, whether it's Chris Jones or not, but Rick Lalacheur being in charge, I think, is going to stabilize things. Whatever happened with the previous guy that was there, we won't probably get those details for a while. And again, moving forward, they're back to the past. But the past of the Edmonton Eskimo, the Double E franchise, has always been a one of winning and like the model franchise in the league. I don't think they can change it to. I think they just got to keep with the community ownership. Keep on the path. Maybe you have to change board members there, because that's the board that has made the decision to bring Chris Jones in for this long period of time. You hand him the keys to the franchise, basically, and it's not gone well on the field. Off the field, they're gonna turn it around and get back to
And
normalcy. I think.
I've been, sometimes I think you need to admit what you don't know.
Yeah.
And the reality is like people are this is in the conversation right now. Should the Elks go private? To be honest, I don't know.
I don't know either.
What I do know is that, there's been a lot of success for community-owned teams over the past decade
Yes.
on the field. Obviously, to be honest, off the field or like in the stands as well. We've
Yeah.
seen, Winnipeg, tremendous amount of success. Now, it needs to be run right. And
Yes.
the question is like, oh,
Well, and that's
is
the
a
thing.
badly run private team, is that better
Better
than
than
a well-run community team? Absolutely not.
No.
So, but at the same time, like I don't own a professional sports team. I'm actually really like, I have no idea how any of this stuff works on that like corporate, president, board of governors level.
Right.
So I don't have an opinion on it beyond, okay, well, you went in and got a steady hand for an organization that needs a steady hand.
Yeah.
And what Eddie Steele said, and I firmly believe, and this may be more true in Edmonton than almost anywhere else, but Eddie Steele said, he's like, winning is what will bring the fans back.
Yes.
And it'll bring them back quickly.
Again.
I do not think this is going to happen. So I want to just ask you this question. It's purely hypothetical. You don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. Let us say that the Edmonton Elks snap their home losing streak against the Ottawa Red Blacks.
I'm
This week.
going to put
Then-
money on that to happen.
Let us say
I
8
always lose
days-
money on the Elks, but
8 days later, they pull off a miracle and beat the Calgary Stampeders, the
Right.
struggling Calgary Stampeders in the Labor Day Classic.
they may be in position to go crossover.
Would that be enough to get 25 to 30,000 in Commonwealth for the Labor Day replay?
A 3-game
I'm curious.
Yeah, a 3-game win streak going into the Labor Day replay or
A chance
rematch,
to like
whatever.
really put the nail in the Calgary coffin
Yeah.
potentially. I'm
Yeah,
not saying I
I-
think it's going to happen. I really, really don't think it's going to happen.
No,
But
but that's always been their signature game of the year. This
Mm-hmm.
is back half of the Labor Day, because anybody who follows the Edmonton franchise closely would go down to Calgary on Monday, come back, and then experience it. And it used to be Monday, Friday, which was bizarrely crazy that we just kept doing it for years and years and years.
stupid.
And we kept asking, it was like, why do we do it that way? Well, we've always done it this way. I was like, yeah, it's a little different than previous whatever times. But that is their signature game on their calendar, other than maybe the Rider games. And they've already had the Rider game. So they're not, this is
No,
the
that is
time
the
for the team to come in. And now, if they were on a 3-game win streak, that would be quite the turnaround. 0-9.
I would just be curious, is that enough winning? Because I think it might be. I think you'd see a nice, fun crowd in Edmonton.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, second question.
Okay.
We've done no prep.
No,
here.
you're just firing away.
Are the Hamilton Tiger Cats the worst team in the league right now?
Probably. I mean, when they when you look at, they lost Edmonton pretty badly, and Edmonton, I mean, there was a massive
24-10.
there was but it felt like there was a long delay in there. Like Edmonton didn't feel like they were running up the score. They probably could have. I expected them to push a little bit further in the second half, but they didn't. They just steady all the way through. They didn't really score that many points in the second half and just held with it. And it was like, okay.
The rain delay affected both teams. So
Yes.
I always have trouble, like, if anything, it probably disrupted the Elks' momentum.
Yes.
More than I would assume that it would disrupt the
I think they
Ticats,
only got
so-
3 points in the second half or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I guess there's an
I feel like
argument-
they could have scored more, but they weren't putting the hammer down. And
There's technically an argument that a West team, there's a time zone advantage sort of playing in the East when there's a big delay like
Yes.
that, because it's so late at night in the East. But like, I refuse to even acknowledge the argument that
no, I don't think it had
Disproportionately.
but I just feel like it killed all the scoring momentum,
No.
because I felt like that it was a 2-touchdown win, but it felt like way more.
yeah, the Ticats where
There was no threat from the Ticats side. It just felt like they don't have anything going on
but
on
I
either
mean,
side of the ball right now.
they are on quarterback 11 at this
Yeah,
point for the
no,
season. So it's a bit like, I remember with I
And
felt
now-
that way a little bit about the Red Blacks last year, where I was just like, as it cycled through quarterbacks and they never really
Right.
got the foothold. And I just felt like it's not even fair for me to evaluate
Yeah,
anyone right now.
It's such a disappointment, because 2 years ago they were in the Grey Cup, went to overtime. They get the Grey Cup back 2 years later to be like, okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get another chance. We're gonna get a Hall of Fame quarterback coming in in a trade, and it just has gone
Well,
the opposite direction this year. And now they're gonna go into BC this week, and BC is gonna be looking to get that bad taste out of their mouth, and they're gonna lay a stomping on the Ticats this
The
week.
funny thing is that they're 3-6.
Yeah,
And
which is not even as bad as the Calgary Stampeders
not-
right now.
And I mean, they're above the Ottawa Red Blacks. The thing with the Ottawa Red Blacks is you see signs of life.
Yeah.
And like, they lost a game, and
and the Red Blacks can score some points too. That's the difference.
That's the thing. And I saw a debate out there somewhere about like, oh, did the Red Blacks collapse against the Alouettes or did the Alouettes? And it's like, I don't know, it's probably some combination of both. But I give
yin and yang, but
the Owls a bit of credit. And like, it's just the Ticats still have a chance of finishing in the top 3 at least.
They can.
And I don't necessarily know that the 4th team in the West is going to be.
No, you can't count on a crossover being coming into play.
The problem is the Ticats. I mean, I will admit this in the intro. I thought that the Labor Day games in the East were a back-to-back, just like in my head.
Oh, okay.
And they're not this year. But I haven't looked at the Ticats schedule versus the Stamps. It does feel like.
Well, and Ticats still have the Stamps at home, which will be a big game for that crossover standing.
Assuming Bo's back.
Yeah,
that'll be even bigger.
That'd be nice.
But yeah, I feel that Ticats, like their point differential is brutal. Is it? Well, the Elks are the worst in the league, but it's considerably worse than the Red Blacks. Like this, Ticats
one and 4 at home.
It's 78. They're a minus 78 in point differential and scoring differential. The Red Blacks are a minus 22, and the Stampeders are a minus 32, 42, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what that is. It's 43.
38.
38. Man, my dad listens to this podcast and is going to be very disappointed at my math. I don't know why
money you spend on education and you can't do the quick math.
So yeah, I mean the Ticats for me, they're just substantially worse than the 2 teams that they're probably going to be competing with for a playoff spot.
And their schedule coming up, being in BC this week just feels like it's going to get. It's tough for them.
I was looking, and I mean, let's do what we always do and kind of look at the schedule. You got Montreal at Winnipeg. I'm really interested in that game.
Signature game of the week.
I suspect that that's like. I don't have the line in front of me, but I would have the Bombers as a comfortable favorite in that game, while also being like, this is a show me game. And it looks like Caleros will be back. He's been practicing. So, you give the advantage to the Bombers while also saying, well, the Alouettes have put up some good fights and have generally been close with whoever they played.
Yeah.
You got Calgary at Toronto.
And Fajardo is supposed to be back for this game.
He is supposed to be back for this game.
So both of their, so when they're both top quarterbacks are coming back, it's kind of like, okay, throw this one into a blender because I don't know. Winnipeg last week, well, I mean, I get to see them in person for the first time this year. And I'm like, they just didn't impress me at all. I mean, again, they're not playing with their top quarterback. So
it's just that my thing with that is that the media was treating Drew Brown prior to that game like he was exceptional.
Yes.
So, and now I'm hearing, well, you only held Drew Brown to no touchdowns. So, and it's like, well, it's one or the other. I said this to Ballantine. It's like, is Drew Brown going to get himself a $400,000 a year starting contract next year or not? I mean, it just does feel like because the Stampeders lost, we're not going to talk about them in a positive light, and nor should we. But
it felt like
it felt well against
more like the Stampeders lost than the Bombers won. That's the way it felt to me.
Yep.
Like I looked at that,
seeing
that game in person and just seeing the mistakes that the Stamps were making, the critical errors, the
2 missed field goals, a drop touchdown pass to Luther Hackett-Evanov,
and then a pick six,
and then a pick six. And
again, how many we said this a few weeks ago. How many games are you going to win with a pick, giving up a pick six? They've given up 4 this year.
And you're not winning without touchdowns offensively, and the Stampeders aren't scoring touchdowns right now.
No.
However, dude, they haven't lost in Toronto since 2012. Did you cover the game?
They lost in Toronto
July
in
7th, 2012. Did you cover that game in Toronto?
July 7th, 2012? No. My daughter was born July 3rd, 2012.
Okay, so no.
So I took these games off. I remember watching this game because if memory serves, Drew Tate got hurt, and that's why they ended up losing.
Sure.
Okay.
I can't look it up.
I mean, Drew Tate got hurt early in the year, each of 2012 and 2013. And I believe that's like, it was the third or fourth game of the year, somewhere in that range. And like, of course, it's like the start of Stampede, watching on TV. I've got a newborn baby, and so I'm pretty sure Drew Tate got hurt in that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
39-36 loss at Rogers Center.
Right.
They've now won 8 straight with victories coming in 3 different venues. Do you want to take a guess at the 3 venues?
Well, the one would be Rogers Center. One would be their current
BMO
stadium. And then didn't they play a game in Varsity Stadium?
No.
Or was it in one of the Atlantic Stadium?
It was Tim Hortons Field.
Oh.
There was a scheduling issue at Rogers Center.
Oh.
This is all in the Stampeders press release. This isn't me being inspired.
okay.
This is I'm pretty sure
This
I read
isn't
this
me
in
being
the
smart.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. These would all been after I was covering it, after I was traveling, so I wouldn't have remembered these things.
There.
Yeah.
Well, either way, look, I think the Stamps have
And
played
weirdly, when I was covering the team, they always did poorly in Toronto, like many years. And that year, 2012, they almost won that game. Sounds like it. It was close. I remember Drew getting hurt, Kevin Glenn coming in. They were solid. They were fine. And then they just didn't pull it out at the end. But for many years, they were not very good in Toronto. And the people that around the team that knew this would tell me, it was like, yeah, we've got a lot of guys from the eastern part of the US. So their families are all coming up for these games when they're in Toronto. It's like, okay. So you're kind of like, everybody's distracted. You're trying to get tickets. You're trying to accommodate, I've got 15 family members coming up from like Albany, New York, or just an example. It's like, okay, so Toronto's close enough. So everybody from the eastern part of US, the American guys would come and have their families up in there. And there'd be a lot of, Canadian guys from Ontario as well. So it was always a big thing to go to Toronto because it's a big center, a lot of people there, and it just felt like it was distracted. So the fact that they've cleaned that up and now haven't lost in 11 years there, that's pretty interesting. Cool. That's an interesting stat for what used to be the lower, now maybe has switched the other direction.
Yeah. They did lose, obviously, the 2016 Grey Cup in Toronto.
And the 2012 Grey Cup in
And the
Toronto.
2012 Grey. But other than that, let's move on. I'm going to just throw a couple.
Well, 2012 was Chris Jones went from Calgary to Toronto, and he had their entire playbook still, and he knew exactly what Dave wanted to do on offense. I remember that vividly because that was the theme of the Grey Cup that year.
Who's your MOP through 11 weeks?
Still Chad Kelly for me.
Is it?
Okay. Yes. I know there's a big debate between the top three is with you Zach Collaros and Vernon Adams, but consistent wise, I think Chad Kelly. How does the Toronto Argonauts had all three of their bye weeks already? How has that happened already, Danny? Like the best team in the league by record has only played 8 games. Everyone else has basically played 10. And now they've got 10 straight weeks of a game every week. So
it's not great.
It like when you have 3 bye weeks, you should have one in the second half, one in the back half, and maybe one in the middle. Like
if I put my conspiracy theory hat on,
okay,
it's that Toronto tends to be a city where people get out of town on the weekends.
Okay,
and that stadium can be a little bit difficult to get to from out of town for a sort of 7:00 start on a Thursday. So
they
potentially the league wanted to.
Well, they've only had was it 3 home games so far?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, according to
go back to the standings, you'll be able to see how many home games they've had. It's
they're 4-0 at home.
4-0 at home, 3-1 on the road. So they're even so far. I don't know. You can throw in another road game in there.
It's absurd that they've had 3.
It's just bizarre. And you look at the standings, it's like, okay, everyone else is in their division has played 9 or 10 games. They're at 8, and well, they're going to catch up eventually. And good for hopefully
harder for the Stampeders.
Hopefully they've stayed healthy up to this point of the year because it's going to be a grind down the stretch. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So the Chad Kelly thing is interesting. Currently, just looking at the PDF that the CFL produces in terms of league leaders, we only have the top 3, but it does have Jake Mayer as the top or passing yards quarterback, and then Vernon and Zach.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I think right now
he's definitely
Zach is probably approaching number 1 for me.
This is what I look at here.
QB rating, I know,
and it's 6 points better than Zach right now.
But I mean,
120.2 is an excellent QB rating.
I think that clearly no one has run away with it. Chad Kelly is probably the favorite. To be honest, I think I look at Brady Oliveira, 783 rushing yards.
He's been pretty consistent.
The problem is not a ton of rushing touchdowns there, although I don't actually know because I only have the top 3.
And he's going to be.
I don't have the top 3. I have tied at
top
1 rushing touchdown. James Butler and Chad Kelly, and then tied, but a third, several tied.
Okay,
good job, guys.
Well, and Oliveira would be your leading candidate for Canadian right now, wouldn't you say?
I mean, Betts has got to be in there.
That would be a good Western Division battle. That's
I
for
mean, it's
sure.
interesting. Like when you look at, so let's just move on. Like, okay, let's stick with Canadian. I do think that, yeah, those two have to be your 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And that ultimately,
That's be a divisional thing. It'll come down to not East versus West. It'll come down to the West Division vote.
yeah,
If anybody knows how the works, you vote for your team first, then you vote for your division second, and then you vote East versus West after that. That's just the way they do it. And there's some flaws in that system that lead to a lot of times where you're going to awards night and you know exactly who's won because
yeah,
it's pretty obvious.
and I mean, I think Oliveira has clearly established himself so far to me as sort of the league's elite running back. Kadeem Carey has been hurt, is not going to play this week.
Yeah.
And they know that Dedrick Miller can step in and do the job. But that's him, and I think a lot of us generally are like, hey, it's Carey stand back. But I think that Oliveira and Ouellette, and to be fair, Jamal Morrow's having a good season too. But for me, Oliveira has sort of separated himself. He gets those hard yards that I really respect. And then like I saw him honestly against Calgary. It's always you see guys with your own two eyes and they're in they get in your head. And
this is exactly what I'm going to say is with seeing him on Friday night in a rainy, gross weather game when it's like, okay, we're going to grind it out on the ground. The Stamps knew he was running the ball. He just ran through them a lot, and he's played every game, and that's why he's got the most yards. There's something like, as I used to say every year when Joffrey Reynolds would come in and never miss a practice and be there every game, it was like, health is a skill. It's a skill in football. And if you can go out there and be out there every single game, give a consistent effort and never let your team down in that respect, like then you'd have to worry about, Oliveira seems like he's just a workhorse, and that is so valuable to have. And you could see it at the end of that game when they were driving down, they get that extra field goal. That was the difference in the game. Yeah,
he's exceptional. Would have no problem with him as Canadian, and who knows? I mean, if he keeps up at 780, like he's almost at 800, and the Bombers have played what? They've played 10 games.
Yeah.
So, he's 16, 1700. Who knows? And I'm sure going to have lots of games where they run the ball heavily as it gets colder. I will say the Canadian, I do think it's him and probably Betts. 11 sacks for Betts. He'd had a couple sort of slower weeks, although not really.
He had 10 in the first 6, didn't he? And then
and like against Calgary, he was getting to
right.
Jake,
he just wasn't getting
was
the numbers.
The ball, he was rushing him. I do think that defensive is where it's going to become really, really interesting. I think that you are going to get, no matter what, a push. Winnipeg's media guys, I love them. They also will likely
it'll be Jefferson there.
Well, but like the question is for me, it's like Betts has 11, Jefferson has 8, but then you look at Jefferson has 10 pass knockdowns.
Yes.
So he is like, how disruptive is this guy? Is this guy week in, week out? And I do think that AC Leonard, we should also shout out. He has 9 sacks, which is pretty impressive. And then Mike Rose at defensive tackle having 7 is really impressive. Like there's a ton of options here. For me, to be perfectly honest with you, I have trouble for defensive player not looking at that. Jefferson, 8 sacks, 10 pass knockdowns, and seeing like Jake Mayer after the game said, he was like, guys, the difference in that game was that the Bombers D-line tipped a couple balls.
Yeah.
And he's like, there was one that Reggie would have extended a play, and then there was one
down in the scoring zone
Dukes near the end that he was like, would have extended the drive. And I don't think like we talk enough about knockdowns, but for me, I do have Jefferson now as my number 1 for defensive.
Yeah. On your last episode, Eddie Steele gave a good breakdown, if you guys haven't heard that, of exactly what Jefferson does on those plays. If it's like, okay, if he can't get to the quarterback, he's just going to get in the way of the quarterback. And at 6'7", he just does. It's hard to, like, when you're trying to throw over your offensive line, which is all these 6'4" guys anyway. And then there's a 6'7" guy with his gigantic wingspan, and he's just putting up a tent of like, okay, throw it over me. Yeah. Good luck.
You heard Eddie. I tried so hard. I went to the Bombers media availability at the hotel.
Yeah.
When they got into Calgary, and I tried so hard. It was like, to be honest, like it was kind of gross by me. I was just trying to get him to talk about how amazing he is, because like I love.
See, and you goad them into saying how terrible the other team is. Like that's
like I'm not gonna write a story.
I also you're always trying to get some banter going. Like you were trying to stir some.
One of the best interviews I've ever had was at 2021 Grey Cup, where Willie just talked about driving a garbage truck in the offseason.
Yeah,
and how he was buying one, and that was his and it was fascinating. One of those interesting men. I don't know. I just wanted him to like sort of pour some gas on the fire. Wouldn't do it. And Eddie was hilarious. He was like, yeah, he won't say it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he's on the field telling everyone else about it. So
I don't think when it comes to talking CFL awards, I just haven't had the actual chance. I wanted to do sort of a segment just kind of actually talking about awards because we should.
We're halfway through the year, so this is the good time, right?
Yeah. I don't have a damn opinion on special teams right now. I haven't paid any attention. There have just been so many returns.
And the thing is, we've had some big returns, and then these guys haven't played consistently, right? That's like Alford had a couple of big games. I think he's probably leading in most of the offensive or stat categories. But again, he's had 2 in 1 game. So that does 1 game a season make? Maybe not. Well,
Alford's been, probably, I don't know. I don't think that the kicker has really separated himself this year.
No.
So I think Alford.
Lothar has had a good. Yeah, Lothar's had a good season.
Sean White's at 96.6%, which is pretty decent.
Yeah,
Castillo's at 95.8. We're looking at the numbers here. Look, I really think that at this point, now that you say it, Alford's got to be the
probably leading.
But I honestly think that one of the things that has made this year exciting in the CFL has been the special teams play.
Yes,
I think that we've seen. We've just seen it impact the Stamps. They've lost games because of special teams touchdowns.
They essentially had a good chance to win that game in Winnipeg because of a dropped punt return. So special teams affects the games quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then offensive line, I don't know. That's we're
just gonna pretend that doesn't exist, Ian.
We're gonna argue about that one all the time because
you bailed me out huge by coming in today. But if you think I'm talking about most outstanding offensive
I'm not
line,
worried about it.
I don't. And then I think for rookie, this is where
Clark Barnes was such a candidate, and now he's going to be out for the majority.
Austin Mack is leading the CFL in receiving yards. I just got to write Lucas and ask. I don't know if he's a rookie. I have his Wikipedia up here.
Did he suit up in a game?
He played 1 game.
A regular season game.
He got 1 pass for 1 yard. Yeah, he made his NFL debut
in a regular season game. Then he's not a rookie. So he's a first-year CFLer, not technically a rookie. As soon as you play 1 game in the NFL,
he's played 2 games in the NFL. So that's too bad because Austin Mack would clearly be the best sort of first year. Now. Clark Barnes was running away with it. Clark Barnes is not going to be back. So we gotta figure that out. And then just to be honest, something that I am going to reach out to Lucas and say, hey, you might give us a little bit of
give us our list. But by this time, they should have a good sense of the list of what
they do, and they always do well in advance of. This is not something I'm criticizing the CFL.
No, it's something that it's more for chatter purposes because we have had years in the past where we talked about a guy all year he's a great candidate for. And it was 3 years ago he special teams on one NFL game and he doesn't qualify.
That was a nice thing about Dalton Schoen last year. By this time last season, we were all it's Dalton Schoen, and there's no debate here.
Yeah,
someone guarantee he's a rookie. He's a rookie. We're good to go. Okay. Dalton Schoen's winning that award.
Never played in an NFL game. He doesn't have an NFL jersey.
Exactly. So, So we basically have. We've gone over this weekend's games. Gone over the situation.
Not too extensively, but to me, the Ottawa Edmonton game of interest for us here in Calgary because of the crossover effect and what happens with Edmonton. You want, I said this a few weeks ago, you want the Edmonton team to come in having a couple of wins and feeling good about themselves on Labor Day. So then maybe you can take them down a peg. That's what you would want.
Well, you said specifically, a couple weeks ago, you're you want Edmonton to lose before Labor Day.
Yes.
You don't want
you want them to win before Labor Day.
Win. Yes,
and you would be nice if they won at home before the Labor Day rematch. So both of those things have to happen before Labor Day. And if both of them happen, then you feel, okay, well, if they do sweep them, it's not going to be if the Stamps sweep the Elks, then you wouldn't say, it's understandable. Yeah.
Guys, what are you doing tonight? I don't know what you're doing tonight. You're probably looking for something. Guys, you got to go check out Mug's Pub. This is probably my favorite pub in the city, 1330 15th Avenue Southwest, right in the Beltline. Honestly, they do it all. I, for years, played trivia on Wednesday nights at Mug's. It's the best trivia night in the city. Other nights, they got music. They got specials every single night. Some of the best food and drink specials in the entire city are at Mug's Pub. You want wine, you want beer, you want cocktails. They got it all. Big fan of their fish and chips. They got some amazing pizza. You want to watch the game? They got TV screens. You want to just have a drink with friends? Perfect spot to do it. You want to have some food? As I said, it's delicious. Mug's Pub. We love having them as a sponsor. We love having them just down the road from us here at our studios. Check out Mug's Pub. They're the best. All right, Ian. We had a little bit of an edit there. We are now Gonna leave the podcast. I do want to thank both yourself. Honestly, man, you came in last minute and super helped me out here. I really, really appreciate it. It was always great having you on.
I
And, we gotta
appreciate
figure out this-
always being thought of.
Yes,
That's-
you honestly, you're the best, and I really do appreciate it. I want to thank Ryan Ballantine for taking time from his vacation to pop in. And I want to thank all of our listeners as well as Mugs Pub. We do love it there. And our good friends at Fraser and Fig. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. Fun slate of games on the schedule. I did not say that correctly, but we got through it.
Great slate of games this week.
Exactly. And then next week's Labor Day. So next week's the big one. Next week's the fun one. We're going to have as much fun as possible talking about it and covering it. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Mugs. Thanks, everybody.
Yay!